being with us today. We are going to start a new project, and this project is all about sending a message of positivity or warmth or love to your neighbors. So we're going to be making window or door signs, whatever works best for your home. And I want you to think right now, before we get started, about what word or phrase you would like your neighbors to see if they were to walk by your door or window. So we'll be making this out of clay. In the end, we'll attach some wire. We use some fun odds and ends to attach to your sign. And then you'll end up with a fun, beautiful sign to add some color to your window or your door and send a message to your neighbors. So let's get started. For this project, you will need your air dry clay, some plastic utensils, water spray bottle, a water cup. Mine right now has some clay already in it. Some cut cardboard in the shape that you would like your sign to be. A pencil, scissors, our painting setup, so paint, brushes, paper towels. And then for the end, make sure you grab this flexible wire from your art kit and a variety of buttons and beads. Our first step is to create the shape of your sign with cardboard. So I chose a thin recycled cardboard and I cut it into two different shapes. So the first one I made an oval kind of shape, and the second one I made some kind of wavy edges. So I think I'm gonna use this oval one today, but you can make any shape you want. It could be square, rectangle, just try to imagine that the word that you want to write on your sign, make sure that there's enough space for it. So as long as there's enough space for your word to be pretty big so people can see it in your window or your door, then your sign is big enough. Next, go ahead and take your pencil and we're gonna cut some holes, or actually punch some holes. So I like just using a dull pencil because it's strong enough. Don't have to worry about a hole punch or scissors or anything like that. And it goes right through just like that. And I'm gonna do 2 holes at the top, not right on the edge, go in about at least a ½ inch. And that way you'll have some extra room to create a strong spot for your wire to hang from. If it's right next to the edge, it's likely that it might break a little bit over time. Okay, I am ready for the next step with clay. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a big chunk of my clay and we're gonna make a pancake on top of the cardboard. So this is just an uneven kind of clump. So I'm gonna just press it on top, and we wanna make it about the thickness of your pinky finger. And so I'm gonna measure that on the side in a minute. And then we also want it to go just slightly over the edge. So on the back, it should look like that. And we're gonna smear it over like that. And that'll help the clay stick to the cardboard a little bit better. So I'm just gonna use my palms and start to press it out till it covers the cardboard. If I need to add a little bit more clay or maybe pinch some off the side and move it over there, that is definitely an option. Okay, so now that my clay is all smoothed out, it's not completely smooth on the front, but it's all pressed out pretty evenly, covering my cardboard. I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna take my plastic knife. I'm gonna start to trim around the edge, leaving a little bit of clay on that edge so that we can smooth it over the back. I'm gonna take the extra clay and clump it all together so we can save it. Now is a good time to go ahead and press it down just a little bit more while it's upside down. This will help smooth out any last uneven spots. start to use my index finger, hold down with my other hand, hold down the cardboard. I'm just going to smooth over that clay, kind of making a bond there. So the cardboard is kind of being hugged by the clay. So once you've folded all your clay over the edge, it kind of reminded me of baking a pie or making, a pie crust. Once you have all that done, it's time to take your pencil again, and we're gonna poke it back through from the other side. So here's my hole that I punched earlier with my pencil. Now I'm just gonna go the other way, and we are clearing out the clay from that spot. And on the other side, okay, flip it over. And there we have our two holes. And so I'm going to smooth it down just like this using my index finger. And we have a good start to making a sign. So now this is kind of like your fresh canvas or your blank paper to write on. So it's time to start designing your sign. So think about what word you'd like to write, and you can go ahead and use either a pencil, you can use a knife or fork, you can also use a toothpick to go ahead and carve in your words. And remember, anytime you want to kind of change something, start over, you can always just take your finger and erase what you carved into the clay. If you need to, you can always use a little bit of water, smooth it out. Just be careful not to use too much water because it'll get a little bit too squishy. And if you ever need to, you can also heal something with another piece of clay. So next I'm gonna write my word. I'm gonna carve mine in and make some carving decorations. You can also, if you remember from our last project, you can scratch and attach objects if you want something to be 3D and stand out. So that is an option for you. The word I chose is love, and I started by just drawing out the letters, and then I drew around it to create block letters. The next thing I'm going to do is take a toothpick, and I'm just going to scratch in some designs inside those letters just to give it a little bit more detail and to make those letters pop out a little bit. Again, if you wanted to, you could make letters out of separate pieces of clay by making a pancake again, cutting it out and putting it on top. Make sure that you use the scratch and attach method that we talked about in the last video. So I'm going to work on making my letters textured, and then I'm going to smooth out the background until I am, I'm happy with the smoothness of it. And after that, I'm going to decorate the background, and we will create our wire hanger.
Okay, so now that I have all my pieces attached on there, I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up a little bit. So I'm just gonna use my fingers to wipe away any runny glue and any smudges I made in my clay on accident. And then we're gonna let that dry for a little while so the clay can get nice and strong. And go ahead and grab the wire from your art kit. So I have this kind of greeny gold color. And you need to sort of measure out, it doesn't have to be precise, just kind of eyeball it, how long you want your hanger to be. So I think I want mine to go about this high above my sign. So I'm gonna leave maybe 2 or 3 inches below that. So I'm holding it up to where the 2 holes are and leaving like 2 inches down here and making sure it's long enough. So that looks about right to me. I might even make it a little longer. And I'm gonna make sure that this is 2, even 3 strings thick. So I just folded it back and forth 3 times so that it's 3 strings thick, and it also has extra on the edge. Okay, so now I'm just gonna take my scissors, and this wire is thin enough that you can just cut it with scissors. So I'm gonna cut those 3 pieces. So now I have 3 separate pieces of wire, almost. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna even them out again and then hold it up. I'm gonna bend it. So I have about 2-3 inches of extra wire on either end. And then I'm gonna make a little bend on each side where this is gonna connect to the holes in my clay. So next we can kind of play around with some beads and buttons. So if you have buttons and beads that have a hole through the middle, this is just an option if you want to decorate your hanger. So you can string buttons and beads on there. You can even wrap it up a little bit. Any way that you want. If you want your bead to stay in one place, then you can do it like that. If you want it to slide around, then you can leave it loose. So just decorate your hanger like that. And then we will come back when the clay is dry to attach the hanger to your clay. So I strung some different beads on each of these 3 pieces of wire. And now I'm just gently twisting them all together just so that they stay and we have one handle for our sign. You can use as many beads or as few beads as you want. You could use no beads. And then just make sure that you do have enough extra. So still that 2 or 3 inches left below those holes in the clay so that we can attach it. Now that my clay is a little bit drier, I'm gonna go ahead and paint some areas with my acrylic paint. You can actually use watercolor or tempera paint as well. We just have acrylic paint because it's nice and bold and it's also versatile for lots of different projects. So you can paint the whole clay if you want to, all the background. I'm just gonna paint my letters to make them really pop. And then we will wait for it to dry before we finish hanging our sign. Now my clay is totally dry and I've started to put my wire hanger through the holes at the top. So we're going to just gently slide it through and then make a crease like you would crease a paper to fold that wire over, and then we're just gonna twist it up at the top. And really, you can do this however you want. Be creative with the wire. Just make sure that it is attached nice and strong. This wire is pretty flexible, so it's gentle on your hands, but just the parts that have been cut by scissors, do still be careful with that because it can be a little pokey. And there we go. Now my sign is ready to hang in my window or on a door and give a message to all my neighbors. So I hope you all enjoyed this project, and I hope you got to make a positive message for your neighborhood to put in your window, and we hope to see you next time. Take care, everybody.